It's time to reveal my new armour with the help of Zach Evans.
Hi guys.
Hi folks, Matt Easton here, Schola Gladiatoria. Now you will know if you follow my channel at all that some months ago, a couple of months ago I think, maybe not even that long now, I sold my black armour and I bought a new shiny armour, and that's why I've done some videos talking about black armour versus shiny armour. And in fact Zach did a response video as well, which was, so check out his channel. Obviously I'll stick a link to Zach's channel down below. Zach and I are both armour fanatics and armour fans, and we both go to Tewkesbury together and various other things that require us to wear armour. Today we're going to be you are going to be finally seeing the new armour going on. Now, a few caveats before I go in. So Zach's come around this evening very kindly to help me get it on. So if you don't know this, medieval armour, you can only get about 50% of it on yourself, can't you? It depends on the armour. But
depends on the armour. I was trying to put some of mine on the other day and pulled a muscle. Like that's...
So there you go. It's hazardous as well, and sometimes it's literally impossible. And it depends on the type of armour. So brigandine you can put on yourself. A cuirass. It depends on the type of cuirass whether you can put it on yourself. Sometimes you can sort of weasel your way into it, but one thing or a set of things that you just can't do yourself is arms, okay? Pauldrons or spaulders and arm harness, you can't attach it to yourself. Now, for anyone who doesn't know what I am wearing, why I'm dressed in these funny clothes, this is an arming doublet. So you'll notice it's got lots of things hanging from it. Now, in this period, so we're talking about the middle of the 15th century here, these are what attach the armour to you a lot of the time, okay? So these attach to the pauldrons, these attach to the arm harness. The cuirass kind of locks around your body, but we've also got, if I just move back a bit so you can see, I've also got lots of things dangling down here, and that's what your leg harness hangs from. So this arming doublet, and having something that essentially like almost like a straitjacket, is very tight on your body, and you'll notice it's tight into my waist. It's very important that it's very close fitting. This was made by Rob Chave, by the way, if anyone wants to know. In fact, I'll put a link to his stuff down below as well, if you're interested in getting a bespoke arming doublet that fits you. And it's very important. You can get them off the shelf, but you have to try them on. You have to get them as tight fitting as possible. And also the motion, you want to have a good motion of the arm here where it's not pulling up your leg harness, so everything's kind of attached. There is going to be some experimentation going on here. So we're going to do, essentially we're going to step outside into the garden, we're going to put stuff on and speed it up so you don't have to sit through the whole thing at kind of real-time speed. There's going to be a bit of experimentation, largely because I now have what some people term a bolero, okay? Now this is the male element that goes onto my armpits and upper arms, and that's quite vital to not being stabbed in the armpits, but it does mean that I have to change the pointing of my arms. So there's going to be some experimentation going on, so Zach's going to be helping me with that. And the basic order, as you'll see in the video, is we start with legs, feet and legs. I'm not going to be wearing my sabatons today because I do have sabatons, but they need some alterations to them before I can put them on with my leg harness. So I'm going to be putting on legs first, then the male elements, so the skirt and armpits. I'm not going to wear a male collar today for various reasons, although I do have one and I could be wearing it at that point. Then the cuirass, then the arms, then the pauldron. One other thing which you may or may not be able to put on yourself is a helmet. So we've talked a lot about sallet versus great bassinet and things like this. One of the great advantages of the sallet is you can put it on and take it off yourself, and same thing with the bever. But a great bassinet,
tricky.
Yeah, like these types of large helms, whether it's like a frogmouth or whether it's a great bassinet, they buckle to the cuirass, and particularly at the back, and later on back and front, and you just can't do it yourself. You need someone to help you.
Yeah, and I think definitely as well, the first time you put any piece of armour on, just having someone that can help to adjust it, because it's like, it's not clothing, it is a machine.
It's less flexible than clothing, and one thing that certainly has happened to me a lot in the past is I've got my leg harness on really well, then I've put the rest of the armour on, and by the time I've got all the rest of the armour on, something has pulled or sort of slackened, or a knot has moved slightly, and my leg harness is now not. And the problem is, at that point, once you put everything else on, you yourself can't adjust the leg harness very easily. So although you can put the leg harness on yourself initially, once you've got the rest of the armour on, you really can't, and you need someone else to go down there and fiddle around, and usually it's a case of hoiking something up a bit higher so it isn't it's kind of dragging you on your knee or a foot or whatever. Right, okay, let's get on with this and let's see how this goes. So apologies that I forgot to turn the microphone on at this point of the filming, but really just to say, without waffling too much, that this is showing that the points are connected directly to the mail in this case. And this was an experiment, but one that it transpired will work out quite well. So these are silk points, silk woven points, they're not waxed, and they're put straight through the mail sleeves instead of through the actual doublet underneath itself. So there we go. Now, this is the first time I put all of this armour on in one go. So as is often the case with armour, it's a question of tweaking and fine-tuning, moving a point here, moving a point there, moving a strap over rather than under, isn't it? I mean, it's just a continual learning curve.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were things, as I was putting it on you, I was telling you things that you couldn't see. Because the next time someone else puts it on, they're going to ask you, where does this point go? And you're going to say, I don't know.
I don't know, because I didn't do it. So yeah, it's really, really a steep learning curve. But I have to say, this harness is really, really comfortable. It's obvious that the great bassinet doesn't work great with these pauldrons straight off. And we suspected that might be the case. Now, that's not to say that great bassinets were never worn with pauldrons. They were sometimes, but there were obviously particular details to either the pauldrons and or the great bassinet to facilitate them working together. Yeah. Most of the time, or at least many of the examples we have of great bassinets being used, they're being used with spulders, smaller spulders, instead of pauldrons.
Yeah, you see a bunch of different things being tried, don't you?
Yeah.
So there's an earlier style which my harness has, where they even try the pauldrons going under the great bassinet.
Yeah. So it's clear they were struggling with this problem, like how do we do this?
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see that change and how they go, well, we'll try this, we'll try that. And I think sometimes as reenactors, we want everything to work really well. And
straight out of the box.
And we're like, why isn't this working? I want pauldrons to work with my great bassinet. Yeah. And it's like, well, actually, they struggled with that. Yeah. And by the time you get to the 16th century, as you said, they're mostly using just spulders because it's just the easier option.
And it's all about compromise. You know, you can't have everything maximum protection and maximum mobility. It is always a trade-off in one way or another. So just briefly, for those of you who are interested, and I'll go into more depth probably in a future video about this, but as I've got it all on, this is mostly based on two surviving armours, and they are both French/Burgundian. That is, so the helmet, the great bassinet, and my legs are based on those of Frederick the Victorious. Okay, but my cuirass and my arms are based on those of the so-called grandson armour in Bern in Switzerland, which was supposedly captured by the Swiss from the Burgundians in 1476. But both these armours are sort of compatible in the sense that they were both made by members of the Massalia family. One of them was made almost, I think, entirely by Tommaso Massalia, and if I remember correctly, the other one was made as a combination of parts by Tommaso and I think Antonio Massalia in about 1455. So they both are about the same date. They're both Italian made, but they are both made for export to the French Burgundian market. But we also know there was very, very similar armours in England, and in fact Toby Capwell covers this quite well in his third volume on English armour. So this is a sort of armour absolutely that could have been worn in the Burgundian Wars, and for example at the Battle of Grandson, but equally could have been worn at the very end of the 100 Years' War, so the Battle of Castillon just about, or could have been worn at the beginning of the Wars of the Roses. And for people who hadn't yet got the money to update their armour, this still plausibly could have been worn at Tewkesbury in 1471. So this dates to, so as a whole thing, this dates to about 1455, 1460. The great bassinet probably doesn't work great with these pauldrons. These pauldrons are probably supposed, this style of Italian pauldron, are supposed to go more with either an armet or a sallet, and I will be wearing it with a sallet, probably predominantly for reenactment purposes, but I do want to use the great bassinet, and so for that reason, as we were talking about the mobility, I'm probably going to get spulders made for this harness so that I can swap out these big pauldrons for smaller spulders, and they will work better with the great bassinet. Does that sound sensible to you?
Yeah, absolutely. We try and make everything work sometimes, and we think, well, we do this myth busting of armours worked and people could move in them, but there were some things that just didn't work particularly well, and we know that because they tried it out and then they moved away from it. So
yeah, Yeah, and no armour is ever going to be 100% perfect. That it's just a big series of compromises.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm very happy to have it all on at one time. I have put all of it on at different times and in different bits, but to finally get it all on, and I have to say it's super comfortable. The legs are more comfortable than my previous armour. The cuirass is more comfortable. The pauldrons are more restrictive. So as I say, I might look at other options, or smaller grand guards, smaller reinforced plates. I might look at different options for the pauldrons, but the arms, the legs, the cuirass, super comfortable. The great bassinet doesn't work great with these pauldrons, but I think it could be made to work well with the rest of the armour, with probably spaulders, but certainly with a sallet this all works really, really well. And just remember that these big Italian pauldrons are a specific shoulder defence for a specific purpose, really catered more towards cavalry fighting. And the English fighting on foot a lot, and even the Burgundians or even the Italians, when fighting on foot, sometimes fought with these big pauldrons. I won't say that they weren't sometimes used on foot, but they often switched to spaulders with bessagues for fighting on foot, because that gives you greater range of motion.
Or even male defences sometimes, on the shoulder.
Yeah.
And I think it's the Beecham pageant. There's in one of the sketches, one of the horsemen has this pauldron on,
yes,
but not that one.
And that's also shown in Fury as well.
Yeah.
Which is obviously way earlier, but even then they were sometimes taking a pauldron off to give greater mobility. And in the deeds of Jacques de Leilang, a Burgundian knight who was particularly famed for fighting with poleaxes, he talks about removing bits of armour. And for him, it was also a sign of, it was almost a boast. It was like, well, I'm going to remove bits of my armour because I know that you're not going to hit me there because you're not good enough.
Yeah.
So there we go. Anyway, thanks a lot to Zach. And he now has the unenviable task of helping me to get all this off. But for those of you who are curious, we won't show the getting off, so to speak, but the taking armour off is a lot quicker than putting it on, which is really great when you're coming off a battlefield, whether it's a pretend one or a real one, and you desperately want to get your armour off. It's really nice, you can just shed it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so it just so happened that this film I made with Zach was actually filmed only a couple of days before Skirmish, which is the smaller of the two events that I currently run. I'm looking at doing a third one as well, but the main event is Fight Camp and the smaller one is Skirmish, and I was the crash test dummy, or the fall guy, should we say, for two of the classes. In fact, for Zach's class on mounted armoured combat, and also on my mate Gavin, from the channel, Gavin Locke's class as well, on armoured fighting, mostly from Fury, a little bit from Gladiatoria treatises. And I was the fall guy for both those classes, so I spent the whole weekend, most of one day on that weekend in armour, testing out the things that I've been trying. Now, if you're wondering what on earth is going on here, this was part of Zach's class where people were testing their form with a lance, so obviously on foot rather than horseback, and using me as a target. And this was a lot of fun, I think, for them, and it was also quite a lot of fun for me as well. And I have to say, I barely felt anything at all. These were balsa-tipped lances, so they're designed to break quite easily. But I did get hit at the end there with some solid lances as well, and really nothing. It was just like having a soft shove. So yeah, really, really cool. The armour worked great. This was the first prolonged period that I've actually worn my armour for, and it went really well. There were certain things I discovered. The fact that the great bassinet does not work very well in its current setup. It probably needs some adjustments for me, and it probably needs rethinking how it interacts with those pauldrons, definitely. Additionally, there was an issue around the mounting of the upper part of the breastplate, where I've subsequently, after the event, I've put extra holes in for the straps just to loosen down a little bit. They were just a little bit too high up on me, so I've remounted those, and little things like this. And this is one of the continual things with armour. It's continually tweaking, learning your armour, learning how all the different parts interact and trying to optimise those. And also remember that one suit of armour, if we call it that, one harness, isn't always put together worn in the same way for every purpose. So sometimes if you're fighting with pole axes on foot, or if you're riding on horseback, or if you're jousting, if you're on campaign, or if you're doing sport combat, you'll have different helmets, you'll have different setups, you might have different pauldrons, you might even have different arms or legs. You might wear tassets or not wear tassets. So all of these are options. But anyway, I'm already starting the exciting journey of learning more about my new armour, and I love it. I've got to say, I absolutely love it. There's some adjustments I have already made, and there's some slightly more fundamental ones that I'm going to be making, and I'm also going to be looking at some optional parts for it as well, which we can cover in future videos, and explaining the kind of research and theory behind what I'm choosing, the historical research showing how it's correct for this armour, and why I'm choosing different things, different parts for different purposes. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I'm very happy to have this armour. I'm extremely happy with it so far, and like I say, I'm really excited about getting to know it better and learn to be as comfortable in this armour as I was in the previous armour, because, you know, after a certain period of time with an armour, you do get more and more comfortable with it usually. Anyway, it's great armour, great work by Radoslaus the Armourer over in Poland, so kudos to him, did a lovely job, and thanks a lot for watching. I hope I'll see you back on the channel real soon. Cheers folks! Thanks for watching. We've got extra videos on Patreon. Please give our Facebook a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Cheers folks!